For 3 months, Diane Morrison shared her umbrella with a wet stranger every Thursday morning, a white woman in her 60s, shivering at the bus stop in the rain. Diane was 34, black, a single mother working nights at a warehouse to keep her 2 kids fed. She had one umbrella barely big enough for herself, but she shared it anyway. Then one Thursday, the woman wasn't there, and the letter she left behind changed everything. It started on a rainy October morning. Diane stood at the bus stop on Riverside Avenue holding her threadbare umbrella against the downpour. Water leaked through 3 different holes, dripping onto her shoulders. She'd meant to buy a new one for weeks, but there was always something more urgent: groceries, her daughter's asthma medication, the overdue electric bill. That's when she noticed the woman, older, white, thin as paper, sitting on the bench completely exposed to the rain. No umbrella, no raincoat, just a cardboard box she'd pulled over her head. It was disintegrating in the water, sagging against her gray hair. Diane hesitated. She was already late for the bus that would get her home to her kids. Her shift at the warehouse ended at 6 a.m., and she needed to be back by 7 to wake Marcus and Keisha for school. She didn't have time for this. But the woman was shaking, violent tremors that made her whole body jerk. Diane walked over. "Ma'am, you want to share?" The woman looked up. Her eyes were pale blue, watery, confused. She stared at Diane like she was trying to remember something important. "Share what?" Her voice was hoarse. "The umbrella. It's not much, but it's better than cardboard." The woman blinked. Then slowly, carefully, she stood. She was taller than Diane expected, maybe 510, but stooped, like she'd spent years trying to make herself smaller. They stood together under the leaking umbrella. Neither spoke. The rain drummed against the fabric. The bus came 10 minutes later. Diane climbed aboard. The woman stayed on the bench. "You're not coming?" Diane called from the bus steps. "I don't have fare," the woman said quietly. The bus driver, a heavy-set man named Curtis who'd driven this route for 15 years, sighed. "Lady, you getting on or not?" Diane looked at the woman, at the ruined cardboard, at the way she was already shivering again. She stepped back off the bus. "What are you doing?" Curtis asked. "I'll catch the next one." Diane handed the umbrella to the woman. "Keep it. I've got another at home." She didn't, but the lie felt necessary. The woman took the umbrella with both hands like it was something sacred. "Why would you do this?" "Because it's raining," Diane said simply. The bus pulled away. Diane stood in the downpour, getting soaked, watching the woman huddle under the umbrella she'd just given away. Then she started walking. It was 3 miles home. She'd be late. Marcus would have to get himself and Keisha ready for school. Again. But the woman had stopped shaking. The next Thursday, Diane bought a new umbrella. $8 at the dollar store, bright yellow, cheap plastic. It would last maybe a month if she was lucky. The woman was at the bus stop again, still soaked, still shivering. The umbrella Diane had given her was gone. "What happened to it?" Diane asked. The woman looked confused. "To what?" "The umbrella. Someone took it while I was sleeping." The woman's voice was flat, like this was just how the world worked. Diane felt something tighten in her chest. Anger, maybe, or just exhaustion at how cruel people could be. She opened the new umbrella. "Come on." They stood together again. This time, Diane noticed details. The woman's coat was expensive once, wool well-made, but now it was stained and torn. Her shoes were falling apart, duct tape holding the soles together. Her hands were clean, though. She kept rubbing them together, washing invisible dirt. "I'm Diane." The woman didn't respond at first. Then quietly, "Catherine." "Nice to meet you, Catherine." Catherine looked at her with those watery blue eyes. "Is it?" The question hung between them. The bus came. This time, Diane paid both fares. Catherine sat beside her, stiff, uncomfortable, like she'd forgotten how to be around people. "Where are you going?" Diane asked. "Nowhere, just riding." Diane understood. Sometimes the bus was warmer than the street. They rode in silence for 20 minutes. When Diane's stop came, she stood. Catherine stayed seated. "You can keep riding," Diane said. "The fare's good for the whole route." Catherine nodded once. "Thank you." Diane walked home thinking about clean hands and expensive coats, wondering what had happened to put Catherine on that bench. It became a routine. Every Thursday morning, Diane's day off from the warehouse, she'd meet Catherine at the bus stop. They'd share the umbrella if it was raining, share the bus ride. Diane would buy them both coffee from the bodega on the corner, weak and watery but hot. Catherine never asked for anything, never explained why she was there, but slowly over weeks small details emerged. "I used to teach," Catherine said one morning in November. They were sitting on the bus, watching the city wake up through rain-streaked windows. "What subject?" "Literature, high school, 30 years. Diane tried to imagine this shaking, confused woman standing in front of a classroom. It didn't fit. "What happened?" Catherine's hands started their washing motion again. "I forgot things, important things, names, dates, where I lived. They said I couldn't teach anymore." "Your family?" "Gone. My husband died 10 years ago. No children. My sister stopped calling when I couldn't remember her birthday." The bus rumbled over a pothole. Coffee sloshed in their cups. "I'm sorry," Diane said. "Why, you didn't do it." "I'm still sorry." Catherine looked at her for a long moment. "You're the first person who's been sorry in 3 years." Diane's own life was barely holding together. Her apartment was a 2-bedroom in a building where the heat only worked half the time. Marcus was 12, angry at the world, getting in fights at school. Keisha was 8, sweet but struggling with asthma that flared up every time the weather changed. Diane worked 50 hours a week at the warehouse, stacking boxes, loading trucks, destroying her back for $14 an hour. No benefits, no sick days. If she didn't show up, she didn't get paid. Her ex-husband, Marcus's father, sent $200 a month when he remembered. Keisha's father had never been in the picture. Diane's mother lived in Atlanta, too sick to help, needing help herself. Some months Diane had to choose between groceries and medication, between heat and electricity, between bus fare and school supplies. She was always tired, always behind, always one emergency away from losing everything. But every Thursday she bought 2 coffees instead of 1, paid 2 bus fares instead of 1, shared her umbrella with a woman who had nothing. Her friend Jasmine, who worked the same warehouse shift, didn't understand. "Girl, why are you doing this?" Jasmine asked one night during their break. They were sitting in the break room, eating vending machine sandwiches, too exhausted to talk much. "Doing what?" "Spending money on some random white lady. You barely got enough for your own kids." Diane unwrapped her sandwich slowly. "She's got nobody." "That's not your problem." "Maybe not, but I can't just walk past her." Jasmine shook her head. "You got too much heart, D. That's going to get you hurt." Maybe, but Diane couldn't stop. In December, Catherine got sick. Diane found her at the bus stop, barely conscious, burning with fever. Her lips were cracked and bleeding. She'd soiled herself. Diane called 911, waited with Catherine until the ambulance came, rode with her to the hospital even though she was supposed to pick up Marcus and Keisha from school. She called her neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who agreed to get the kids. Then Diane sat in the ER waiting room for 6 hours. A doctor finally came out, young, Indian, exhausted. "Are you family?" "I'm her friend. She has pneumonia, severe dehydration. We're admitting her." "How long?" "At least a week, maybe more." The doctor hesitated. "Does she have insurance?" "I don't know." "We'll treat her either way, but someone needs to handle her discharge planning. She can't go back to the street in this condition." Diane's head spun. Discharge planning, like she had any idea how to do that. "I'll figure it out," she heard herself say. The doctor nodded and disappeared back through the double doors. Diane sat in the waiting room until visiting hours started. Then she went up to Catherine's room. 4th floor, shared room, Catherine by the window. She was asleep, IV drip in her arm, oxygen tube in her nose. She looked smaller in the hospital bed, fragile, like she might disappear entirely. Diane pulled a chair close and sat. She didn't pray much anymore, but she prayed then. For Catherine, for her kids, for the strength to keep going when everything felt impossible. Catherine was in the hospital for 10 days. Diane visited every Thursday, bringing nothing because Catherine needed nothing, just sitting there. Sometimes Catherine was awake and they'd talk. Small things, the weather, what Diane's kids were doing in school, Catherine's memories of teaching, the ones she could still access. Other times, Catherine slept and Diane just sat, watching monitors beep, watching nurses move efficiently through their rounds. On the 10th day, a social worker found Diane in the hallway. She was a black woman, maybe 50, with kind eyes and a tired smile. "You're Diane Morrison." "Yes. I'm Angela Price. I've been working on Ms. Whitmore's case." "Whitmore?" "Catherine Whitmore, that's her full name." Diane realized she'd never known Catherine's last name. Angela pulled out a folder. "We found some information." Catherine was a teacher in Westfield County for 30 years. She has early-onset dementia. Lost her home 3 years ago when she couldn't manage her finances anymore. No living relatives we can locate. "What happens to her now?" "She qualifies for Medicaid. We're placing her in a long-term care facility. Greenwood Senior Living. It's not fancy, but it's clean and safe." Relief flooded through Diane. "She'll have a bed, regular meals." "Yes, and medical care." Angela smiled. "You probably saved her life, you know. Another week on the street in this weather, she wouldn't have made it." Diane's throat tightened. "I just shared my umbrella." "That's more than most people do." Catherine was discharged on a Tuesday. Diane took the day off work, losing a day's pay she couldn't afford to help with the transfer. She rode in the transport van with Catherine to Greenwood. The facility was in the suburbs, 40 minutes from Diane's apartment. Small, single-story, surrounded by bare trees. Inside, it smelled like disinfectant and overcooked vegetables. But the staff seemed kind. Catherine's room was tiny but had a window, a real bed, a closet. Catherine sat on the bed, looking around like she couldn't quite believe it was real. "You're going to be okay here," Diane said. Catherine's eyes filled with tears. "Why did you do all this?" "Because nobody should be alone." "But I'm nobody to you." Diane sat beside her on the bed. "You're not nobody. You're Catherine. You taught kids for 30 years. You matter." Catherine grabbed Diane's hand. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "I won't forget you. Even when I forget everything else, I won't forget you." Diane didn't believe that. She knew how dementia worked, but she squeezed Catherine's hand anyway. "I'll visit when I can." She meant it, but life got complicated. Marcus got suspended from school for fighting. Diane had to meet with the principal, arrange counseling she couldn't afford, watch her son slip further away from her. Keisha's asthma got worse. 3 ER visits in January alone. Each one cost money Diane didn't have. The warehouse cut hours. Instead of 50 hours a week, Diane was getting 35. Her paycheck shrank. She fell behind on rent. She wanted to visit Catherine, planned to every week. But the bus ride to Greenwood took 90 minutes each way. That was 3 hours she didn't have. Time she needed for working, for her kids, for sleeping. Weeks passed, then a month, then 2. Guilt ate at Diane, but she was drowning. Some days she could barely keep her head above water. In March, 5 months after Catherine had been admitted to Greenwood, Diane got a call. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. "Hello? Is this Diane Morrison?" A woman's voice, professional, careful. "Yes. This is Rebecca Chen from Greenwood Senior Living. I'm calling about Catherine Whitmore." Diane's heart dropped. "Is she okay?" "Ms. Whitmore passed away yesterday morning, peacefully in her sleep." The words didn't make sense at first. Diane was standing in her kitchen making sandwiches for the kids' lunches. The knife was still in her hand. "She's gone." "Yes, I'm very sorry." Diane set the knife down carefully. "Did she have anyone with her?" "One of our nurses was there. She wasn't alone." That should have been comforting. It wasn't. "Ms. Morrison, there's something else. Catherine left instructions. She wanted you to have something." "What?" "Can you come to the facility? It's better if we discuss this in person." Diane took another day off work. Another day's pay she couldn't afford. She took 2 buses to Greenwood, arriving at 2 p.m. on a Thursday, the day she used to meet Catherine at the bus stop. Rebecca Chen met her in the lobby. She was young, Asian, wearing scrubs and a sympathetic expression. "Thank you for coming." She led Diane to a small office. "Catherine was very clear about this. She updated her will 2 months ago." "Her will?" Rebecca handed Diane an envelope. "She wanted you to read this first." The envelope was white, sealed, with Diane's name written in shaky handwriting on the front. Diane opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a letter, 2 pages, handwritten. "Dear Diane, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I won't remember writing this soon. The doctors say I have maybe 6 months before I forget how to write at all. So I'm writing now while I still can. I need you to know something. When you shared your umbrella with me that first morning I was going to die that day, I'd decided. I was going to walk into traffic when the bus came. End it. I was so tired of being cold, being forgotten, being nothing. But then you stopped, you saw me, you shared what little you had. For 3 months you were the only person who treated me like I mattered. You bought me coffee. You paid my bus fare. You sat with me when you had every reason to hurry home to your children. You saved my life, not just that first day, every day after. I know you haven't been able to visit. Don't feel guilty. You have your own life, your own struggles, I understand. But I want you to know that those 3 months, those Thursday mornings, they gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. Dignity, connection, hope. I was a teacher for 30 years. I saved money. I was careful. When my husband died, he left me his pension. I had more than enough. Then the dementia came. I made bad decisions, trusted the wrong people. My sister's husband convinced me to invest in his business. He took everything. When I couldn't remember what I'd agreed to, there was no proof, no legal recourse. I lost my home, my savings, everything. But I had one thing left. A life insurance policy my husband bought 40 years ago. It's been sitting there untouched. I never changed the beneficiary after he died because I forgot I had it. Until 2 months ago, a social worker here helped me update it. I named you as the beneficiary, Diane, you and your children. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to make a difference, enough to give you the breathing room you've never had. Please don't refuse it. Please don't think you don't deserve it. You deserve everything good this world has to offer. You taught me that small acts of kindness aren't small at all. They're everything. Thank you for seeing me. Thank you for sharing your umbrella. With love and gratitude. Catherine Whitmore. Diane read the letter 3 times. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the paper. I don't understand, she whispered. Rebecca handed her another envelope. This one was official from an insurance company. Inside was a statement. Beneficiary, Diane Morrison. Policy amount, $250,000. Diane stared at the number. It didn't make sense, couldn't be real. This is real, her voice cracked. Yes, the insurance company has been contacted. The funds will be released within 30 days. Diane's legs gave out. She sat down hard in the chair. $250,000, more money than she'd ever imagined having. More money than she'd earn in 10 years at the warehouse. She didn't have to do this, Diane said. Tears were streaming down her face, now unstoppable. She wanted to, she was very clear about that. Diane thought about Thursday mornings, about cheap umbrellas and watery coffee, about sitting on a bus with a woman who'd forgotten most of her life but remembered kindness. I just shared my umbrella, she whispered. Rebecca smiled gently. You shared more than that. The money changed everything and nothing. Diane paid off every bill, caught up on rent, bought Marcus the therapy he needed, got Keisha a better inhaler and an air purifier for their apartment. She quit the warehouse, enrolled in nursing school full-time, used the money to cover tuition, books, living expenses while she studied. 2 years later, she graduated, got a job at the same hospital where Catherine had been treated for pneumonia, started working in geriatric care. She thought about Catherine every day. Every time she helped an elderly patient, every time she saw someone confused and scared and alone, she thought about Thursday mornings at the bus stop. On the 3rd anniversary of Catherine's death, Diane went back to that bus stop on Riverside Avenue. It looked the same. Same bench, same cracked sidewalk. She brought 2 coffees, set one down on the bench where Catherine used to sit. A young woman approached, early 20s Latina, wearing a fast food uniform, looking exhausted. Is someone sitting here? The woman asked. No, have a seat. The woman sat, noticed the extra coffee. Is that for someone? Diane looked at the coffee, then at the woman, at the exhaustion in her eyes, the way her shoulders sagged. It's for you, Diane said, handing it over. The woman stared at it. Why? Because it's Thursday, and someone taught me that small things aren't small. The woman took the coffee with both hands. Thank you. You're welcome. The bus came. Diane paid both fares. They sat together in silence, two strangers sharing a moment of warmth on a cold morning. And somewhere Diane thought Catherine was smiling. Small acts of kindness ripple outward in ways we never see. Catherine Whitmore taught literature for 30 years, touched hundreds of lives, and ended up forgotten on a street corner, until one woman with almost nothing chose to share what little she had. That choice saved two lives, Catherine's and Diane's. What small act of kindness will you choose today? Someone near you needs to be seen. Let us know in the comments what you'll do, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this story moved you. Your engagement helps us share more stories that matter.